Well, good morning. Welcome again to the Church on the Way. For those of you watching online, thanks for joining us. Wow, it's so good to be with you, right? It's so good to be here. I want to say a brief comment about what just happened earlier as we watched a dozen or so young people get baptized. How many of you know that was incredible? So I just feel led to kind of just provide a little bit of context for what just took place. Obviously, we're seeing young people take a major step in their faith journey with Jesus, and that is awesome, okay? We love it. But I just want to point out something that's happening maybe in your heart as you watch people get baptized. Lindsay and I were like undone in the front row. Like we were kind of a mess, okay? Something might be happening in your heart as you watch young people get baptized or anybody get baptized. It's very, very easy in our Western world. Everything's very scientific in our world. How many of you know? There's always like a logic or reason behind everything. And it's easy to watch that and go, oh, that's just a symbol of something happening in their heart. Or that's just, like we would say sometimes, an outward expression of an inward work. I mean, you know that. Like, we say that, okay? And all of that is true. Are you guys with me? All of that's real, but I also want to bring in another piece that I think we've lost in our culture. In our effort to make everything very, very scientific and sanitized and linear and that we can understand everything, we sometimes miss the mystical, spiritual, mysterious nature of what just happened. And I just want to remind you that yes, this is a symbol. Yes, this is a metaphor. Yes, they are literally presenting, literally joining Christ in his death and his resurrection. It is an incredible symbol, but there's also something really mysterious that just took place. And I don't get it. To be fully honest, I don't get it. But I know that sometimes things happen on a spiritual level, and we can't forget that. Yeah. So I'm just going to leave that there. Is that okay? Can I leave that there? Yeah. There's a reason that in church for thousands of years we've called that a sacrament, because there's a deep mystery to what happens in our hearts and in our souls and in a spiritual realm. Something shifts when we literally identify with Christ physically in an embodied way. We literally dunk ourselves down and come back up, just like Christ died and was resurrected. Okay, I'm gonna leave that there. Okay, wow, you guys, hi, my name is Jordan. My name is Jordan, and my wife Lindsay is up here, and actually my middle son David is here. David's 4 years old. Hi, David. I will tell you, if it's your first time here, it might be your first time, I'm not Pastor Tim, okay? I'm not him. So pastors Tim and Deborah are our lead pastors, and they're actually serving in our children's ministry today. They asked Tim to play Jesus in a skit. All right, that's got to do something weird to your head, okay? When you're literally asked to play Jesus in a skit. So they're off serving with our kids' ministry today, and that is my beautiful segue to ask you the question, have you signed up to serve on one of our teams? All right? If you'd like to get involved around here, we just really believe church is better when you participate instead of spectate. So if you want to get involved around here, I would invite you, just pull out your phone and text the word church team. It can be one word or two, church team, to the number 97,000. You'll get a link with some check boxes. You can say, I'm interested in serving in these places, and we'll get back to you. We'll find a spot for you to serve on one of these teams. So that is my plug for that church team. And then secondly, if you've come today and you're prepared to worship with your tithes and your offerings, there's a couple ways you can do that with an envelope here in person. You can drop it in one of the lock boxes, or our webpage, you can go and there's a little button to give. Yeah, you'll figure it out. Okay. If that's you today. So if you call this place home, that's for you. But here's what I want to do today. I want to look at a story in Luke 17, and we're going to start in verse 11. Luke 17 is the passage of scripture that we're going to dive into today. But before I do that, I've got to give you some tools. I've got to give you some stuff first before we dive into this together. Okay, first off, I want to read for you an obscure passage in the book of Leviticus. Okay, specifically Leviticus 14. Come on, how many know you came on a good day? right? We were saying this morning in the run-through, I'm going to serve up a hearty bowl of Leviticus for y'all today, okay? Because it's good for you, okay? So I'm going to give you Leviticus 14, and then I want to hand you 3 tools, okay? Some cultural, historical kind of background tools, just briefly, that'll help us get at this Luke 17 passage a little more diligently together. So Leviticus, 3 tools. My hope in all of this is that the encounter that a man, we're going to see in Luke 17, the encounter that this man has with Jesus, I hope that you have an encounter similar to him. How many of you, if you've been around Church on the Way for any amount of time, you know that we've really, how do I say this? We put all of our eggs in this basket, encountering Jesus. We really believe like that is, we would say, the engine that makes this whole place run is an encounter that changes everything with Jesus. So we really care about that. And I hope, my prayer for you is that you would have an encounter similar to the man that we're going to see in this story between him and Jesus. So without further ado, we're calling this one, He Turned Around. Can you say it with me? He turned around. Oh, he turned around. Okay, Leviticus 14, starting in verse 1. It goes like this. Oh, I should say, you're lucky today. You're lucky. You're lucky that this is Leviticus 14 and not Leviticus 13, okay? Leviticus 14, if you see in your header in your Bible, it says regulations about defiling skin diseases, okay? I mean, how many of you are psyched? I mean, the mood is set, my friends, okay? But you're lucky that it's not Leviticus 13, because 13 is regulations on defiling molds. Molds, M-O-L-D-S, molds. You did not come to hear about that today. That's next week. We'll cover that next week. This week, we're going to do defiling skin diseases. Okay, so Leviticus 14, I got to show you this. Verse 1, it says, "The Lord said to Moses, 'These are the regulations for any diseased person at the time of their ceremonial cleansing when they are brought to the priest. Now the priest is to go outside of the camp and examine them. If they've been healed of their defiling skin disease, then the priest shall order that 2 live, clean birds and some cedar wood and some scarlet yarn and some hyssop be brought for the person to be cleansed. Then the priest shall order that one of the birds be killed over fresh water in a clay pot,'" to which we all said, duh. I don't even need to read this, right? This is all standard procedure. We could just end here. You all know this passage. Okay. He's to take the live bird. So they killed one bird over the fresh water. He's then to take the live bird and dip it together with the wood, the scarlet yarn, and the hyssop, and dip all of that into the blood of the bird that was killed over the fresh water. Verse 7, 7 times the priest shall sprinkle the one to be cleansed of the defiling skin disease and pronounce them what? Clean. And after that, he is to release the live bird, which is now covered in the blood of the other bird. Take that bloody bird and release it into an open field. Close your Bibles. Whoo, you came on a good Sunday. Man, we are just off to the races today. Okay, Leviticus 14. I want to hand you 3 tools. One about Samaritans, the other about leprosy, and thirdly, the one about priests. I got to tell you about these things here. 1, Samaritans. You've got to know, as we dive into Luke 17, you have to understand that Samaritans were the most hated group of people ever for the Jews, for the nation of Israel. The Samaritans were like you couldn't even come up with a worse enemy than the Samaritans. They were considered half Jewish and half pagan. It was this mixed ethnic group that had been created about 1,000 years before Jesus' day. So if you rewind to 930 BC, so that's 1,000 years before Christ, we see the nation of Israel splits into 2 kingdoms, a southern and a northern kingdom. Now, for the most part, the southern kingdom followed after God's plans and decrees. They did okay. The northern kingdom, however, they started to intermarry and intermingle with other non-Jewish pagan people groups like God told them not to. And what happened was, what became of it was a half Jewish, half pagan people group called the Samaritans. And if you fast forward to the book of Nehemiah comes to the city of Jerusalem, it's in ruins, and he's like, we got to rebuild the walls, we got to rebuild this place. And he looks to his friends and he rallies these people to help him rebuild the city. And he thinks to himself, I'll reach out to the Samaritans. They're half Jewish, right? They're on our team. And he reaches out and says, will you help us? And they say no, and they actually make it really difficult for Nehemiah. They try to sabotage the whole work that he was doing. So there's when we pick this up in Luke 17, there's over 1,000 years of animosity between these two people groups. It was real, it was visceral, it was tangible. Even today, if you fly to Jerusalem and then you try to fly to modern day Samaria, they will see the stamp in your passport from Jerusalem and they will not let you in. Because today there still festers thousands of years of animosity. So, that's Samaritans. Secondly, I got to tell you about leprosy. To have leprosy in Jesus' day, what would happen is your skin would begin to you would get a rash and then it would get infected and it would begin to spread over your whole body and it would turn white. And then what would happen is the extremities on your body would begin to shrivel up, rot, and they would fall right off. So your ears would just shoom, your face would begin to droop, your arms and your fingers, you would lose feeling in the tips of your fingers and your toes. And so what would happen is people with leprosy would actually hurt themselves and they wouldn't know it. They would just fall apart. Your body would literally eat itself from the inside out. It was gruesome, it was horrible, and it was surely a death sentence. Nobody got healed of leprosy. Now, if that wasn't bad enough, if the physical ailment of having the disease of leprosy wasn't painful enough, let me tell you, the social implications of having leprosy were far worse. What would happen if you contracted leprosy? You would have to leave the city and live on the outskirts of town in a leper camp with other people like you. You were outcasted to the outskirts of town. You could not participate in the economic, social, cultural life of the village. You could not be around other people. In fact, there's a law in Jewish culture that you couldn't, as a leper, you couldn't stand within 6 feet of a rabbi. Because not only would you be in fear of spreading your physical disease, the rabbi was more worried about contracting your social disease, of taking on the shame that was you. Okay? You were completely ostracized from community. To be a leper was to live in physical pain, isolation, and shame. So that's Samaritans, that's leprosy. Now let me tell you about priests. In Jesus' day, if you happened to be healed of leprosy, like if you just woke up one day and your rash was just gone, that's where a priest comes in handy. Because you would immediately go to your local priest, and the priest had the authority to look you up and down and declare you clean. Now, not just physically clean, but he had the authority to grant you social cleanliness, meaning you were allowed to re-enter society. The priest was the one who would rubber stamp that and say, you can rejoin society. You were ceremonially clean. And he would perform, the priest, he would perform a Leviticus 14 ceremony over you. Like we just read earlier. Do you guys remember that? Don't make me read it again. Because I'll do it. I will. So the priest, he would perform Leviticus 14 and declare you clean. He would gather some wood, some red yarn, some hyssop, 2 live birds, and then he would look you over. Basically what you do is you would strip down just totally naked before your priest, okay? So this is like a weird mix of like dermatologist visit and priest. Like, it's better for scheduling, but it's just awkward, okay? So you would strip down before your priest and he would look you over, every inch of you. How's that mole doing, buddy? Let me check on that. Hey, ooh, yikes, okay. How's that you said last time you visited, you had a rash. How's that rash doing? Oh, ooh, yikes. So he would look you over inch by inch to make sure you were clean. I call it the priestly mole check. I'm so glad I'm a pastor today. You know what I mean? Oof, rough job. Okay, quick note. We have no record in Scripture or outside of Scripture. So in the Bible or any historical record, we have no record today of anyone ever taking advantage of Leviticus 14 and being declared clean, healed of leprosy. We have no record of it. So what that means is, if it happened, it didn't happen very often. But for what we know, we have no record. Basically, we have no proof that anyone was ever able to take advantage of Leviticus 14. Nobody pulled a code 14. You know what I'm saying? It just didn't happen. Nobody was healed of leprosy. Okay, so that's Samaritans, that's leprosy, and that's priests. Now, Luke 17. Open your Bibles to verse 11. Luke 17, verse 11. It goes like this. Now, on his way to Jerusalem, Jesus traveled along the border between Samaria and Galilee. And as he was going into a village, 10 men who had leprosy met him. And they stood at a distance, as you were to do in Jesus' day if you were a leper. They stood at a distance and they called out in a loud voice, Jesus, Master, have pity on us. Or your Bible might say, have mercy on us. And when Jesus saw them, he said to them, go, show yourself to the priests. Go, quick, hurry. Go show yourself to the priests. And as they went, they were cleansed. Y'all awake today? They're cleansed. They're healed. 15, it says, now one of them, when he saw that he was healed, he came back, praising God in a loud voice. He threw himself at the feet of Jesus and thanked him. And, catch this, he was a Samaritan. Oh, okay. He was a Samaritan. Now, in verse 17, Jesus asked this Samaritan, he said, were not all 10 cleansed? Where are the other 9? Has no one returned to give thanks to God or praise to God except this foreigner? Then he said to him, rise and go, your faith has made you well. Okay, close your Bible. What a good story. That's a good story. Yeah. It's a simple story at first glance, right? I could give you like the Sunday school version of this sermon, and it's really quick. Basically, we should all be thankful for what Jesus has done for us, right? Like, wow, and I'm not disparaging that sermon. That actually would be a great sermon. We should be thankful. How many of you know we are so blessed and we should be thankful? Yeah, amen, totally. Like, that's the whole sermon. Like, I could give you the Sunday school version, but, he was a Samaritan. So here we have 10 men are miraculously healed by Jesus, and they immediately run to their local priest because they need a priest to perform a Leviticus 14 ceremony for them so that they could get back into the real world. So they run. Jesus says, go, hurry, show yourself to the priest. But one turns around. He turned around. Which begs the question, why? Why would this guy stop in his tracks and turn around as his other friends ran ahead? Because you have to imagine, these 10 guys, when they saw they were healed, they immediately were like, whoa, hold on, you too, you're healed? Yeah, the rash is gone. Okay, run, go. And Jesus says, go, run. Because if that priest closes up shop at 5 o'clock, right? Are you following with me? Like, these 10 guys were like, run, because they want to be first in line to go see their priest to get the bloody bird thing going, okay? Are you with me? They're in a rush. They got to go get, and if that priest goes home at 5 o'clock and they miss it, they've got to wait another day. And what if that rash comes back? Then I'm back to where I started, right? I'm back on the outskirts of town, so run. You can imagine all 10 of these guys would have taken off together, sprinting, pushing each other, trying to get first in line, but one guy stops. Why did he stop? Okay, can I give you my theory? This isn't spelled out in Scripture. Jesus doesn't pause the narrative and say, let me tell you why this guy stopped. Like, we don't have this written in Scripture, but I have to imagine, as I place myself in the shoes of that Samaritan who was running with his 10 friends and then stopped, I think something dawned on him that day. I could almost imagine that he started off running with a pack of his friends and then he realized, wait a minute. I could go to my local priest. I could go do the Leviticus thing. I could do the bloody bird and I could be declared clean. I could have a priest rubber stamp my healing and I could rejoin the world, but guess what? Oh, I'm still a Samaritan. I'm still a Samaritan. That doesn't wash off. No matter what I do, or no matter what kind of priest gives me the approval that I need to go back into this world, I'm still a Samaritan. I'm still unacceptable. So he stopped and he realized, no matter what I do, no matter how well I cover my blemishes, or no matter how hard I try, this world will never give me the love, the acceptance, the significance, the belonging, the meaning, the identity that my soul so desperately craves. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how many priests I get. It doesn't matter how many song and dances I do. It doesn't matter how many times I strip down and allow people to judge me. I'm still a Samaritan. And what's more, I imagine as he stopped in his tracks, he probably thought, well, I mean, my other 9 buddies, they're not Samaritans. They're going to be fine. They're going to get the rubber stamp and they're going to be fine. But even if I wasn't a Samaritan, and even if I went to my priest and he gave me the approval that I needed, one weird rash and I'm back to where I started. Are you with me? One thing, one area, one thing that's out of place or doesn't look quite right, and I am back on the outskirts of town. And this Samaritan stopped in his tracks because he realized that finding his identity and his worth from this world is like trying to hit a moving target, blindfolded. It just doesn't work. He realized there has to be another way to satisfy the longings of his soul. The Samaritan realized, man, I got to break up with my priest. Right? It's not me, it's you. Right? He realized that day, I need a new priest. I need a different kind of sacrifice. I need a priest. This Samaritan probably thought, as he stood there in the sand and Jesus stood behind him, 10 paces behind him, he probably stood there in the sand and thought, I am sick and tired of this game. I'm sick and tired of trying to chase after my identity in this world, and it's only temporary. I need a new priest. I need a priest that I don't have to perform for. I need one that I don't have to keep going back to for temporary approval. I need a priest that I don't have to get cleaned up for. I need a priest that doesn't see my cleanup effort and rubber stamp it, but sees my brokenness and transforms it. Are you with me today? Yeah. I need that kind of priest. I need a different kind of sacrifice. I need a different, I need one that isn't manufactured on my own merit. I need one that's permanent and stable, trustworthy, faithful. I need a kind of sacrifice not based on my own strength, but on somebody so much stronger than me. There's this verse in Hebrews that says Jesus Christ is the same yesterday, today, and forever. I need a different kind of priest who offers me a better sacrifice. St. Augustine in 400 AD, so 400 years after the life of Jesus, St. Augustine writes in his Confessions, he says, "You have made us for yourself, O Lord, and our hearts are restless until they rest in you." Oh. This Samaritan stopped doing the old song and dance, and he said to himself, I'm sick of this game. I need a new priest and a new sacrifice. Maybe you know exactly how this priest was feeling. As he stood there in the hot Middle Eastern sun in the sand with Jesus behind him and his friends running off to their priest, as he stood there, maybe you know exactly what that feels like. When you say to yourself, man, I'm so tired. I'm sick of this game. Maybe that job or that promotion or that careerism kind of chase that you're on. Maybe that thing has not satisfied your soul the way that you hoped it would. And you're left going, oh, okay, what do I chase now? Maybe it's a boat. Can we talk about that? Maybe it's a car. Maybe it's that pair of shoes, or maybe it's that iPhone, or maybe it's that puppy you just got. Oh, okay, friends, lock the doors. Okay. Maybe it's that thing that you thought was going to fill the void in your soul, and it just has not delivered. How many of you know our world promises so much, but it often fails to deliver? Maybe it's that relationship, that marriage, boyfriend, girlfriend. It has not given you the identity, security that your soul so desperately craves. Maybe it's a new spiritual teacher, program, self-help, feel-good thing. We live in Los Angeles. Come on, people. All right. Maybe it's a new thing that you're trying out and it's just not scratching the itch of your soul. Maybe it's a new gender identity or sexual orientation or partnership that you're in, or maybe, and you're just trying it out, hoping that it can anchor your soul. And it just seems to slip through your fingers. You guys know what I'm talking about. All of this fails to deliver the lasting, unconditional love, acceptance, forgiveness that we so desperately need and are created for. Friends, in our secularized, commercialized, post-Christian Western world that we all have found ourselves in the midst of, how many know there's good things that have come from it? Like modern medicine, let's keep that, right? Let's keep that. Like freedom of speech, freedom of religion, like those are really great ideas. Let's hang on to those. But we have to understand that there's a lot of, what should we say, liabilities or side effects. There's an irony at the heart of our culture. And we have to just call it what it is. At the heart of our culture, we are obsessed with discovering our own true identity. Yeah. And yet we have boxed out the Creator who gave us that identity. So here we are, we've drawn a box and said, okay, here's the area that we can search in. The world and the universe, anything that we can study or touch or describe or measure, and then my own heart, my own life. That's the box. So search in that box, and you are going to come up empty, friends. And it's almost like God is standing outside of that frame going, oh, there's a bigger box. I created it, right? And I created you. But here we are, at the heart of our culture, we are desperately grasping for identity. And we're looking within a box that's too small. And God is saying, oh, no. Let me tell you who you are. Because what can happen, friends, is that in our modern world, we can scrape together some semblance of identity. We can buy some stuff. We can sign up for some stuff. We can achieve and earn some things. And we can start feeling like, man, I have a place to belong in this world. I belong here. This is my identity. And we can start to duct tape it together. But the problem is, once you've duct taped your identity together in our modern world, the problem is you built it. And when it breaks, it's your fault. Am I right? If that's how we're going to develop our identity and our personhood in this world and duct tape together whatever we can grasp, it's just fragile. And it's always going to follow the ticker line of whatever your soul is latched onto. If you're having a bad day, your identity's having a bad day. If you're having a good day, you're having a good day. But it's all dependent on you. And that's a scary premise, my friends. Maybe you're beginning to realize that what the Samaritan realized. That no matter how hard I try, how much I consume, earn, attain, achieve, no matter how well I cover up my blemishes for my priest, this world will never give me what I really need, which is true belonging and significance and identity. This Samaritan turned around and he said, man, I got to break up with my priest. I need a new priest. I need a better sacrifice. Can you imagine how confused the village was? When this Samaritan turned around, approached Jesus and said, and he laid his life down and worshiped, and then he went back into town. He rolled back in. Could you imagine the swagger that the Samaritan rolled back into it? He's just walking. He probably buys a sandwich and he's just eating a sandwich as he's rolling down the street, right? And the whole town would have looked at him. They would have been like, wait, hold on. He's healed, but he didn't go to a priest. So he's not clean yet. He's not allowed to come back into town yet. So what is he doing walking around with his head held high? What's going on there? This would have confused all of his buddies. His other 9 friends would have been like, hey dude, where'd you go? We lost you. Did you go find a different priest? Oh, that's a good idea. The line was shorter with that other priest. I get it. You went to that guy to get first in line. No, this Samaritan looked at him and went, I didn't see any priest today. No, I didn't go to a priest, but I'm healed. This Samaritan was playing a whole different game. And I believe this is one of the greatest testimonies that we have in a world that is desperately searching for meaning and identity. Friends, as followers of Jesus, the most radical, compelling, confusing thing you could ever do is find your identity in Jesus and not in our world. It just totally messes with people, okay? It just totally messes with, could you imagine? Like they probably, his friends probably looked at him and they're like, okay, buddy, you went through that job loss or that death in the family or that illness or that divorce, but for some reason, you're handling it a lot better than I am. Yeah. What do you have that I don't have? What is it that you have in your life that I don't have? It's almost like you're not tied to things. They have no hold on you. It's weird. It's almost like you have that house and that car, or you don't have that house and don't have that car. But either way, it just doesn't seem like they have any hold on your soul. What do you have that I don't have? It's almost like everyone I know, I can imagine the 9 Samaritans or the 9 lepers were looking at their friend and going, now everyone I know in this life is trying to do life on their own strength. But you seem to be embedded in this funny community that you call church, and you get together once a week, and it seems like you actually really love and care for one another. What is that? I don't know what do you have that I don't have? It seems like this world is obsessed with themselves. We're all obsessed with ourselves and only meeting our needs. But you seem to be really compelled by other people's needs before your own. What do you have that I don't have? What is that? Or here's one better. Everyone in this world seems to be so content with writing off the existence of a God or any personal entity that cares and loves for us. We seem to be very, very comfortable with writing off the existence of God. But you seem to be talking to him. And it seems like he's talking back. What do you have that I don't have? What do you know that I don't know? Because I'm looking within this box that we've created and I'm not finding anything of substance. What boxes are you looking at? Or what priest did you go see that day? Because it wasn't my priest. In our cultural moment of individualism and consumerism and materialism and secularism, the most compelling thing we can do as followers of Jesus is root our identity in something more founded and more permanent and steady than what this world has to offer. It just messes with people. And this is why, if you've ever read your New Testament and you notice when Jesus heals somebody, he often says this. It might be something that's confused you. When Jesus heals somebody, he often says, don't tell anybody. Does that ever strike you as weird? Jesus often says, don't tell anybody, but go straight to your priest. Oh, Jesus is being like real punk rock, you guys. Here's what I think Jesus is doing. Jesus is looking at this guy and he's like, go straight, don't even stop. Go straight to your priest and go file a Leviticus 14 form. It's gonna blow your priest's mind. That's what Jesus is doing. He's like, go straight to the priest and file a form. Like, imagine a DMV, okay? Have you ever been in one? Like, you walk in, you pull a number. Jesus is like, go to your priestly DMV and pull a number and walk to the desk and be like, yeah, can I get a Leviticus 14 form? It's gonna blow that clerk's mind. You can imagine, the clerk is probably like, wait, I'm sorry, Leviticus 14? And she's digging around in files and like, I don't even have one of those. And she stops and she's like, Bill, we've got a Leviticus 14 up here. Yeah, we got a code 14. Is there a form for that? And then the priest in the back is like, oh, Leviticus 14. And he's like getting up out of his desk. He pulls out a big dusty file folder and is like, I haven't seen one of these in my entire career, Leviticus 14. Comes out to the front, where is this young man with the Leviticus 14? And he's like, oh, right here, I'm healed. So can I get a 14 form? And he's like, oh, come over here. Jesus is cleverly throwing this healed guy back to the priest and going, go talk to your priest and say, there's a new priest in town. There's a new priest in town. And he's offering a new kind of sacrifice. And it's almost like Jesus is saying, when I'm in charge, when this king is on the throne, buckle up, because there's going to be a lot more Leviticus 14 forms. Okay? Like, get your photocopier fired up, because we're going to need a lot more of those forms. There's a new priest in town. Jesus says, my kingdom is one of healing and restoration, identity, hope. And it's not about striving and performance. It's not about that. It's a whole different kind of priest, offering a whole new kind of sacrifice. Jesus is this priest. He offers us this sacrifice. Friends, instead of dancing and posturing, hoping that the world will give me what my soul needs, Jesus hands it to me freely. I don't have to posture or put on a song and dance for my priest. I don't have to hide my blemishes from God because he covers them in his blood. Instead of scrambling around to find some wood and some scarlet yarn and some hyssop and a couple of birds, instead of putting all this together and going, am I enough yet? If you just look me over, I think I've cleaned myself up enough. Jesus says, no. You got to break up with your priest. There's a new priest. I almost imagine as the Samaritan stood there, he was running and he stopped, had that revelation, and he turned around. I imagine as he started walking back to Jesus, he probably was unbuttoning his shirt, taking his shoes off, right? To do the priestly thing that he had done so many times. And Jesus probably looked at him and was like, whoa, buddy. Keep your clothes on. Hey, whoa, easy. I don't know what you guys do with your priest, but I'm different. I'm not that kind of priest. Keep your clothes on, buddy. It's almost like Jesus looked at him and said, I already know the wounds that you've sustained. I know the blemishes that you carry. I know the song and dance you've been doing. I don't need to see it. Keep your clothes on, buddy. I'm a different kind of priest. This encounter that the Samaritan had with Jesus altered him to his core, and he was never the same. Amen. He never had to schedule another dermatologist visit again. Friends, it altered him to his core. Do you know that you can have an encounter with Jesus that so thoroughly turns your world upside down, so much so that everything is different? The way you live your life, the way you interact with other people, the way you parent your kids, the way that you work at your job, the way that you think, it can alter everything. But you need a new priest. And as this Samaritan approached Jesus, the text says that he literally laid down before Jesus and worshiped, which is the only logical response when you've given up the game. It's the only thing left is just to lay down and go, okay, I'm done. There's nothing left to say. And he worships. But little did he know, the Samaritan, as he stood before Jesus, the rabbi priest, little did he know that just 5 or 6 chapters later in the book of Luke, Jesus, in the spirit of Leviticus 14, bearing striking resemblance to what we read earlier in Leviticus. Little did he know, 5 or 6 chapters later, Jesus would be taken forcibly to the outskirts of the city. By who? The priests. The religious leaders of the day. What would Jesus be carrying? Oh, some wood. What would he be wearing? Some scarlet yarn in the form of a red robe. like Matthew 27 tells us. And as Jesus hung on the cross, what would be lifted up to his side but some hyssop? And as Jesus hung on the cross, it says that they pierced his side, and what comes out but blood and water? The last ingredients of Leviticus 14. And what happens to that blood and the water? It flows down and is sprinkled on us. You are the bloody bird. Come on, that's a good t-shirt, right? That's a good t-shirt. I'm gonna get Pastor Dorothy that t-shirt and you're gonna see her sporting it. I am that bloody bird, Leviticus 14, right? Okay, that's a great shirt. You are the bloody bird that's been dipped in the blood of a perfect sacrifice. And you've been released, you've been set free. You've been set free. Jesus is that perfect sacrifice once and for all. And he invites you and I. He's standing behind you, just 10 paces behind, going, whenever you want to turn around. Whenever you're done chasing after all those temporary priests, whenever you're done chasing after what all of your other friends are chasing after, when you're ready to turn around, I can be your priest. Hebrews 4, in verse 15, it says, we do not have a high priest who is unable to empathize with our weaknesses, but we have one who's been tempted in every way, just as we are. Yet he did not sin. It says, let us then approach. Let us then, you could say, turn around. And let us approach God's throne of grace with confidence so that we may receive mercy. Jesus, Master, have mercy on us. Mercy and find grace to help us in our time of need. Imagine you're the Samaritan. Put yourself in his shoes and you've stopped running and you're standing there in the sand and Jesus is standing 10 feet behind you. Are you ready to turn around? Are you ready? In Scripture, the word repentance literally means to turn around. He turned around. Sick and tired of this game. Man, I need a new priest. Man, I need a better sacrifice. Because this whole song and dance thing is not working anymore. I need somebody that can cover me once and for all. Imagine you're that Samaritan. Are you ready to turn around? Are you ready to approach Jesus, a different priest with a better sacrifice? Because you are the bloody bird. You're that bird that's been dipped in the blood of Jesus and set free into an open field, still covered in his blood. Here's what I'd like you to do. If you're comfortable, could you close your eyes and put yourself in the shoes of that Samaritan that day? What started out as a dead sprint with 9 of your friends chasing after any sense of approval that this world could offer you, you stop in your tracks and you realize, oh, I need a better priest. And you're standing there in the sand. Imagine yourself in that moment. You can feel the presence of Jesus just standing 10 paces behind you, but you haven't turned around yet. But you can kind of feel him standing there. And you turn around. Imagine yourself just slowly walking back to Jesus. You're frustrated, you're confused, but more than anything, you're just ready for something new. And you lay yourself down at the feet of Jesus. There's nothing to say, nothing to prove, nothing to earn. No explanation is needed. But you just say, Jesus, thank you. Thank you. Oh, I've been looking for a new priest for a long time. What does the Father say to you in that moment? I wonder what Jesus would say to you in that moment. I want to extend the invitation for those of you in the room who'd say, I'm ready to turn around for the first time maybe. If it's your first time today and you say, I'm ready to follow after a different priest who offers me a better sacrifice, I'm ready to turn around. Can you just raise your hand and say, I'm making that choice today. I'm making the call. I'm turning around. Could you raise your hand so I can see you? Yeah, I see you. Yeah. Yeah. Yep. Oh yeah, I got all three of you back there. Yeah. Yeah, I'm ready to turn around. I'm done. I'm done playing this game. I'm done trying to chase after some kind of temporary approval from this world. It's just not working. I need a better priest. If you're here in the room and you say, man, I've followed Jesus before. I've been on this journey, but I got caught up in what my other 9 friends were doing. I got caught up and distracted in what everybody else was chasing after, and I've lost sight of the priest who could offer me a true sacrifice. If that's you today and you say, I'm ready to return around. I'm ready to turn around again. Could you raise your hand and say, that's me. I'm ready. I'm ready to turn around again. Yeah, I see you, ma'am. Yeah, I see you, buddy. Yeah. Yeah, I need a new priest. Yeah. Can I ask you to stand to your feet this morning? I want to pray a Levitical priestly prayer over you, you bunch of bloody birds. Yeah? Okay, I want to pray for you as we go. Jesus, may we be the kind of people who turn around, away from the approval that the world offers us and back to a rabbi, a priest, a sacrifice who covers us forever. God, thank you that we don't have to be the kind of people striving and grasping for our worth, but you secure it for us forever. Jesus, you are enough for us. So may we be the kind of people who lay our lives down at the feet of our priest, our high priest, and accept a whole new sacrifice. May we be the kind of people who don't have to earn your approval or your attention, God, but we realize we've always had it. It's always been ours. So may we be like the bloody bird set into a field, free and covered by your blood. Jesus, thank you that you have always been enough for us. And everybody said, amen. Friends, family, we'll see you next week.